Hi, I'm Sarah Driscoll from IT Channel Oxygen. Welcome to episode 1 of this special podcast for IT Channel Oxygen. Today, we're here to talk about RVT's journey from mobile tech trader to successful VAR. I'm here with Ricky and Tom from RVT. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Thank you.
Tom, tell me about RVT, how it started life and what you're going to be doing.
RVT, so we've just had our 6th birthday fairly recently.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. We started off September 2019. It's officially our first month of doing business. And the first few months, well, it's interesting, right? Because March of 2020 was when COVID came about.
Yeah, of course.
So I started the business from home, spare room, which worked quite well actually during COVID because obviously everybody was working from home. But I'd worked in the reseller channel for a number of years, and specifically I worked for a reseller that were quite heavily focused on Apple, and was introduced to iPhone I think it came into the channel in around 2016, maybe. And so I had quite a good knowledge of mobile phone, but also the reseller environment as well. RVT obviously is Revitalise Technology. The clue's in the title, really. Originally, we were setting out to focus on second-hand IT equipment, but obviously COVID came along, so we adapted basically in them first few years, where we had to essentially buy and sell whatever products we could find.
Yeah.
And during that period, we started. I recruited my first person during COVID. And we done all right in those first few years, but it wasn't easy going. When I look back, we've still got the deal books and stuff for month to month sales and stuff, and we were doing months where we might have done 4 or 5 deals in a month, compared to now where we're kind of doing 4 or 5 deals an hour on some good days. So it was an interesting few years. There's a photo of me at home on my living room floor with my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, my wife on the floor with a load of phones, with boxes, and we were putting phones in boxes. These were second-hand phones, so we were doing a few second-hand phones and bits and pieces. But I think, like a lot of businesses when they start out, I'd obviously worked for somebody else that had run a very successful IT reseller. I saw some things that were done really well, and then there were some other bits where I thought, well, I would have done that slightly differently. I'd always had this desire to go it alone and to do my own thing. So I wanted to set up my own company, and then didn't really know what that was going to look like. And it took a while for us to fully understand, what does the business look like? What do we want to be? Where do we want to go? I think them first couple of years were just sort of, let's just try and figure it out as we go.
Yeah, of course. Right? Yeah. So were there any what were some pivotal moments for you in those first few years?
I think, whenever you bring somebody on board, another human being, to be part of the journey, I think recruiting somebody during COVID was pretty risky.
Yeah.
It was somebody that I knew personally. It was somebody that I knew was a very good salesperson. And they had obviously fallen foul of the pandemic and had been made redundant during that time. So sort of, do you want to be taking in overheads when you're in the pandemic? This is somebody else, it's another mouth to feed essentially. But I think it was just important that we got on that first step to move me away from being a bit of a one-man band.
Yeah, it's a risk for both sides, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And he took a risk on us, we took a risk on him, and it was the right move.
Yeah, obviously. Ricky, talk to me about what happened when you came on board.
Yeah, so I came on board about 2.5 years ago now. Basically, the business had kind of got to a situation where they wanted to pivot, and I was luckily in the right place, right time. I had a sit-down conversation with Tom, and they wanted to build out the B2B side of the business. So I'd done that at various other companies. And basically, because obviously the business was doing, really well at that point, and they'd done such a great job in, like Tom said, pivoting to, what business made sense at that particular time. I guess the one sort of area that they needed to focus on was that end user business. So fortunately, I was in a really sort of good position where for the first 3 months we didn't actually sell anything on the B2B side. I was literally just doing all the accreditations. We redid the website, we redid the systems, we did pretty much, turned it upside down. And I think that, like Tom mentioned, doing 5 deals maybe in a day or sometimes even a week to then transact sort of like 30, 40 orders, 50 orders a day.
Wow.
It's a big change up. So obviously there is a lot of accreditations and obviously partnerships that needed to be on board to be able to fulfill the customer's needs. So we did our official launch in November of 2023. Which was with over 60 partners, vendors, and customers, and then we kind of sort of got the wheels running at the beginning of 2024. So, it's been a crazy 2.5 years. Right?
That's quite a crazy few years, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah.
And talk to me about. I hear there's been some awards, and talk to me about maybe some of the vendor accreditations and partnerships that you've got.
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough to be voted at the Stockies for Reseller of the Year in the sub 20 million category.
Congratulations.
And much to my surprise on that evening, it was nice that we had the full team there that we surprisingly won. So I think, at that point, we'd been running less than a year on the B2B side, and I think it was a moment of reflection for both of us, right? I think we've Tom obviously, from his front room floor, me from my office, in Norfolk, sort of floor, literally sitting there some nights, sort of questioning decisions and are we doing the right thing? But I think that was validation for both of us that actually that we've, that blood, sweat, and tears has been worth it, right? And we continue to make strides in that VAR space. We obviously are about to move into our 3rd year on the B2B front, and there's some big announcements coming at the beginning of 2026 around, we've hit certain revenue targets so we can have gold status with a lot of the tier 1 manufacturers, and hopefully there's some exciting news around the Samsung piece that we might be able to share right at the beginning of the year. So
absolutely. So give us a little hint of some of the work that you've been doing with Samsung.
So I think the main thing has been really interesting for me is working in the reseller industry for coming up. I can make myself sound really old now, 30 years. Was interestingly working for some of the VARs that I have done. We've never ever in the roles that I've had, whether it's been me running a team or me as a individual contributor, never sold a mobile phone, or pretty much maybe a few tablets, but definitely not a mobile phone in my time.
Yeah,
and that's been our go-to-market. We've onboarded some pretty pivotal large customers with some massive support and help from Samsung. When I joined, we were at advanced status with Samsung, and that's really been, I think, one of our main USPs as to why we've been able to open some of the doors. We've kind of grabbed it with both hands and actually had something else to talk about than your normal, the normal devices like laptops, desktops, printers, the kind of tin that maybe most resellers will kind of go in and have that conversation with. Obviously, you've got your services side and the software side, but it was actually interesting to see the amount of doors that opened just by talking about a mobile device, whether it be a mobile phone or whether it be a tablet.
Yeah, of course.
Samsung have been hugely supportive of us. I think because we're nimble and can pivot quite quickly. I think that's the bit that's appealing to them.
Yeah, of course.
I think some of the bigger VARs out there are obviously, are their own success story, but what comes with that is maybe not the fastest of pace when companies that are obviously trying to buy up market share and obviously their go-to-market is around speed and agility. That's something that we can really help with.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, just last question to you. Just talk to me quickly about what are some of the USPs that RVT have at the moment, or over the last several years, how it's changed.
Yeah, I think Ricky touched on it there, really, in terms of our agility and our ability to get onto problems that customers have got and to react quite quickly to those problems. Just going back to the award point, where we those awards seem to have come along at key moments in our timeline, and they seem to have been really timely shots in the arm. So just when you're kind of thinking, this is really hard work, when are we going to catch a break? Those awards seem to have tended to come along at the right time. And I think a lot of that is just born out of the fundamental desire as a reseller to do the right thing, both by customers and by vendors, distributors, all of those people. And just the one thing I probably didn't mention or talk enough about was that the advantage of sort of starting again with a reseller and building it from the ground up is that we're the ones who are deciding how to set the tone and the culture and what we're about as a business. And what we're about as the business, as Ricky has said, is it's born out of honesty and having that relationship with customers. And it's quite a personal relationship that we try and build with customers, so they know us, we know them. In terms of the staff that are in the business now, where there's just over 20 staff, we're very, very close. We talk about it being a family, and it might sound a little bit sort of corny and stuff. And I get it. As you get bigger as a business, you might lose some of that that kind of feel. But I don't necessarily think you have to. I think you can. Well, I'm going to try and cling on to it as much as I can from a business standpoint, because I think that kind of culture then comes across with customers.
Absolutely.
If there's something we can't do, we will tell customers we're not the best people to do it. We can't do it. But what we are good at is this. And really focusing on what we are good at and holding ourselves accountable for when things go well, but equally as important is when things don't go so well.
Of course.
And I've obviously worked at resellers where on occasion, and I'm probably guilty of it. Well, I am guilty of it in my formative years in reseller world, where you don't really take responsibility sometimes for stuff when it doesn't go wrong, but try and be on the front foot all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I think customers seem to react well to that.
Yeah.
We're always available, right? So if you call me, one of us is on the end of the phone. So
fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for your time. I think that's given us a really good understanding of RVT. Next time we'll be talking to you guys more about the partnership strategy with Samsung and how that's going and developing. So thanks again for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.